I've just realized that one of my things should be the book, but it's not. It's a lie. This thing behind, that's the program I use to read the book, but it's currently not the book, and it should be the book. Hi everyone, and welcome. This is Briony Rose Smith, live now. This is Briony Rose Smith messing up her whole intro. yeah. This is Briony Rose Smith, live at the library, and today is Pompeii time. Welcome everyone. Woo. Sorry about the leaderboard. I have opted out of it now, but it might take a little time to, actually, I think because I didn't do it that long ago, it might not have, registered because I scheduled this stream earlier than when I opted out of the leaderboard, so you'll just have to live with the leaderboard for now. Next time you might not have it. But hello everyone! Hello. Let me give you all your hellos. Hello Howdy! Hello Noblesize Phantom! Hello Nimby! Hello Rahel! Hello Benjamin! Hello Kevlar! Hello the Native Gamer! And hello Razcool! Welcome everybody. Welcome lurkers. Welcome vodders. I read some stuff this week, but it was all competitive chatting. I know, right? It's so weird. I don't need you guys fighting over chatting. It's so weird. What we got going on with you guys? For Miss Fortuna, what was it? Specifically, we've got Fortuna Augusta, which makes me think of Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Fortuna, McCoides, Decorum Majesty, or something like that. It was great. Oh shit, the children are fighting. No, you're all my biggest fan. It's fine. Don't fight. We don't need a civil war in the chat. Getting an ad for teeth restoration. Anyway, before we go on to Fortuna McCordy's, we're gonna write down what I have read. So I read 159th thing was Parliament of Rooks. It's the fifth and final issue of Parliament of Rooks. It is a beautiful comic in mostly black and white and a bit of red and a little bit of blue when needed, but mostly black and white. And it's a wonderful addition to one of my favorite genres called Man Who Just Loves His Wife. It's one of my favorite genres. Abigail, that's the guys. It's a series complete. 2025. Highly recommend. Very pretty. Man Loves His Wife. Horror edition. That's that one. Da-da-da. And then I started a new series that I bought ages ago and only just caught up with yesterday. Man Who Loves His Wife is an underrated genre. It really is. It's a wonderful genre. I love happy couple romance stuff. Man love his wife. I know, right? Not hate her, not think she's a ball and chain or a battle axe. No, man loves his wife. Man becomes demon for his wife. Fire. Red Eyes Member. Welcome, Red Eye. Let me make sure you have your permissions for your thingamajigs. You already have it, so you're good. Katarina! Good recommendation from the bot for Katarina. I mean, Kevlar is paying for it now, so... Love is good. Love is wonderful. You should try it. When hell freezes over. So Fire is a character I know from one of the random comics I picked up years ago, when I first started dating my fiance was into comic books, and I was like, I'm gonna get into comic books, and I picked up this random one called Checkmate, and the character Fire was in it, and then I heard that there was a comic with her coming out, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna grab that. And so I've met her girlfriend, not girlfriend, Tora, who should always definitely be her girlfriend, but she is not her girlfriend. There is a gay couple in this, but it's not them, which is sad. So that's Isyo Fwan, his comic. It is by Star, and I think this is a different person, and Rin. They should make a Pompeii comic book. That would be fun. They made a movie, didn't they? I thought Next Fire and Ice was going to be called Winds of Wind. They should make a Pompeii movie that doesn't suck. May I recommend another typical fantasy romance? Yes, I think you have recommended me that one a few times. I just need to find it. Series 2020, 2025. And then the next book I read was the second issue of that. I have, like I said, all I've managed to do is read 2 comic books recently. We do what we can. I am currently reading some other books. Oh lord. What are we doing? There we go. I can navigate a spreadsheet. Thank you. Save. Yeah. And then that brings our count to... That's the currently reading label, not the books. Red label. Wait, the books. Red label. I need to sort out my OBS. There's too many things in here. Now that's the book image, so it can't be behind the book image. It's got to be a bit further up, I guess. Here it is. Why is it so far up? That's wild. Anyway. 29. 9,729 to go. We're getting there. Slowly, but surely. We're never out of the library. We live here now. Yeah. I hope you like it here. It's nice. Never out. We live in the library forever and ever and ever and ever. Where is sheet 5? No, we don't know. Did the stream die? No. I think it's just you, Kevlar, unfortunately. I want a Pompeii story of a bunch of character vinaigrettes of daily lives of Romans, but the ending is always the same. Oh, that would be good. Rightio. I need to get these comics away so they're not in front of it. There you go. Sorry, I've got a song in my head. It's the opening for the... I didn't even watch this anime, but the opening's a bop. It's a recent one about a girl who figure skates. The opening is so good, just so you know. Anyway, Fortuna Mokui's Chavon Sechisti or something. I don't know the specific words. I should look that up. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, bro, was such a good movie. I loved it so much as a kid. Because as much as it is not what it means, it had a song with my name in it. Even though that's not my name, because it means it had a song called The Beautiful Briny Sea. And I know it means briny as in water being briny, but it sounded like it sounds like my name, so it's my name. There's a hiking anime coming out soon. Cute girls go hiking. That sounds cute. So, yeah, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Being reminded of that too much today. Like, one episode you follow Slave Girl's Day of Life. At the end, she dies to the volcano. The next episode, we follow a different character on what he's doing. It should end! The last character we follow should be that guy that, like, got the letter and, like, tried to save people, but ended up dying to it later. That should be the final person. Bobbing along on the bottom of the beautiful briny sea. You know it! Yay! Like Yuri Camp. is about camping. Yeah, cute. Words. Cute girls doing cute shit. Right, could you possibly slightly make the text on the book smaller and move it to the left? You want the text smaller? We could do that. Ugh, it's too small. Where were we even up to? Where did it go? What did we do? The theater? We're not on the theater. Where did it go? Oh no. We haven't read that bit. There we go. Shamwala. And move it slightly to the left. Let me grab it. A recommendation. There's a lot of figs in this. So many figs. A fig. 57. The Temple of Fortuna. Let's just get in on it. I'm not moving it. It's staying there. I made it smaller. Now I have to focus my reading harder. Because I do read it like this. This is the thing I am reading from. Passing out from the forum under the arch at the northwest corner, we enter the broad street in Pompeii. The broadest street in Pompeii. On the right, a colonnade over the sidewalk runs along front of the first block, at the further corner of which where Forum Street opens into Nola Street. She can read, maybe, just about, but can read. Stands the small temple of Fortuna Augusta. The front of the temple is in line with the colonnade, which seems to have been designed as a continuation of the colonnade about the forum. The builders apparently wished to have it appear as the temple was located on an extension of the forum rather than on a street. The colonnade is certainly not older than the earlier years of the empire, and the temple dates from the time of Augustus. Is that why it's called Augusta? She can read, but at what cost? The cost is reading to you guys weekly. Multiple times a week recently. You've been absolutely spoiled. The divinity of the temple and the name of its builder are both known to us from an inscription on the architrave of the shrine at the rear of the cellar. Tullius MF Dvid to Quintinialis Orga Tributunus Militium Popolo Adem Fortuna Auguste Solo et Pequinia Sua. Is a sacrifice I am willing to make. It's so noble of you, Benjamin. So noble. What magic am I trying to cast here? Luck magic. Marcus Tullius, son of Marcus, Dumvir, with judiciary authority for the third time, quintennial Dumvir Augur, and military tribune by the choice of the people, erected this temple of Fortuna Augusta on his own ground at his own expense. I know, I'm good at the remixes today. If anyone was gonna take samples of me for songs, this is the stream to do so. Such inscriptions were ordinarily placed on the entablature at the portico. The portico of this temple, however, had been thrown down by the earthquake of 63, and had not yet been rebuilt. The cellar may have been damaged also, but in order that the worship might not be interrupted, the shrine was restored. The inscription was temporarily placed over it. Oh, so this is what it might look like restored. It is a little small temple compared to how big and grand some of the other places have been. This is small. Dude paid for this temple, yeah. The remains of the walls, columns, and entablature make it possible to reconstruct the edifice with certainty. This fig. The plan in the other fig, in several respects, closely resembles that of the Temple of Jupiter, from which the architect copied the projecting platform in the front of the podium, and with its altar and double series of steps. The 8 columns sustaining the portico had Corinthian capitals. The walls of the cellar were veneered with marble. In the shrine at the rear stood without doubt the image of Fortuna as guardian of the fortunes of Augustus and protectress of the imperial family. That's how the gods make themselves feel better when they have small temples. It's not the size of the temple, Zeus. Gah. There were also in the walls of the cellar 4 niches for statues, of which 2 have been found. The face of one female figure had been sawed off in order to replace it with another, which has not come to light. The features of the other statue were said in the reports of the excavations to resemble those of Cicero, but the resemblance is purely fanciful, suggested by the name Marcus Tullius in the dedicatory inscription. Both statues were of persons connected with the priesthood, not of members of the imperial family. Probably statues of the latter were set up elsewhere, so that the cellar was left free for less important personages. Put the priests in the cellar. So this would be the rear of the cellar in here. In the Temple of Fortuna with the statue of the goddess restored. The worship of Fortuna Augusta was in charge of a college of priests, consisting of 4 slaves and freedmen, who were called Ministeri Fortuna Augustae, servants of Fortuna Augusta. Our information in regard to them is derived from 5 inscriptions, of which 2 were found in the temple. The others in different places, but none of them were they originally belonged to. These all relate to the small statues, signa, of which one was set up the college every year. One inscription of the year 3 BC speaks of the first servants of Fortuna Augusta. The priesthood was therefore established in that year, and the temple was probably built only a short time before. Yeah. For those confused, Marcus Tullius is Cicero. Oh, good to know, good to know. Wait, did Botrix get on the leaderboard? That's funny, bro. God, you get beat by a bot. In donating the land for the temple, Tullius and Miguel, sorry. Speaking of movies, I just keep, like, the Tullius was just like, wait, that's the name from El Dorado. No, it's not. That's Tullio. That's different. Very similar names. Tullius and Miguel. Miguel and Tullius. Ancient and powerful gods. Botrix is a dedicated watcher. We do appreciate him. He does nothing but promote me. He's so good. Retained the ownership of a narrow strip of irregular shape at the right. Here, a rough block of basalt was set up with the inscription M. Tullia M.F. Area Privata, private property belonging to Marcus Tullius, son of Marcus. And then we have a key to a plan, and it's a very long key for this. So this is all the buildings we've talked about by the looks of it. For the most part, give or take. But we've got... Let's see. Let's have a good analyze of this. So what's B? I think this is the forum. Yeah, so B is the forum. So this is the forum that we've mostly talked about here. This is probably... Oh. No! Where'd it go? It got blue screened! No. Then this will be the one of the marketplaces we read about. Ah! As you can see, this is very easy to navigate. Oh, that's how it all laid out. So I can see why they're saying like a lot of things just kind of come off the forum, because so much of it does. Fascinating. If you would like, I can try and make sure I have a link to this book on Project Gutenberg. So if you want like a better view of those figs, then you can give it a download yourself and follow along, or even just, I don't know, look it up when you're bored. So chapter 20, where are we up to in here? So we're still in this big bit of public buildings, and then we got all this. Don't tempt me, Frodo. Because I can go get you the link. Did I not? I should put it in the Discord every time we pick up a new book. I really should be like, here is the link to get it yourself, in case you want to follow along. Project Gutenberg, la 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 la. Project Gutenberg, la 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 la. If you literally search Project Gutenberg Pompeii, it's like the second link. Is Botrix the Samwise to my Frodo? Yeah, he is. He does the good links. But I don't know. Here it is. If you would like to follow along, just in case. Anyway. General view of the public buildings near the Stabian Gate, the Forum Triangular, and the Doric Temple. At the end of the old lava stream on which Pompeii runs off into 2 points. The depression between them has, as we have seen... Chat is for something. The precious. You are collectively Gollum. As we have seen, was the Stabian Gate. On the edge of the spur, at the left of a temple of the Doric style was built in very early times. The descent here towards the southwest is so sharp and the height so great that it was not necessary to add a wall at the top as a means of defense. Maybe I shouldn't opt out. The one community position to rule them all. The number one spot at leaderboard to rule them all. Really? Taters? Well, Gollum doesn't know the glory of potatoes, so I mean, that's a pretty big debuff to being Gollum. The descent here towards the southwest is so sharp and the height so great that it was not necessary to add a wall at the top as a means of defence. Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick a bit of steel, yeah! The sides of the temple followed in general the direction of the edge of the cliff, raised upon a high foundation. It not only dominated the plain view, but was visible also from the greater part of the city. Glistening in the sun, it became a landmark for mariners far out at sea, who from a distance could offer greetings to the gods where they're enshrined. In the 2nd century BC, the northwest corner of the depression bank of the Stabian Gate was selected as the site for a large theatre. So that was E in here. E! This one. This bit. Previously, we may suppose temporary wooden structures had answered the purpose. This location was chosen in accordance with the Greek custom because the places for the greater part of the seats for the spectators could be easily cut in the natural slope, which here had the shape of half a shallow saucer. A superstructure was necessary only for the upper rows of the seats. The architect, if not a Greek, was certainly of Greek training. Depression. I know, right? We've got so much depression going on. We're trying to forget about our depression by reading books. But here we are, talking about the depression. About to get into your Boromir. Please don't die, normal size man. No, you do like riddles, and that's the bullying. That represents the bullying that chat likes to do. And the fact that Gollum's really not as dumb as he seems. He might be a gremlin, but he's kind of a smart gremlin. South of the theatre, an extensive colonnade was erected. It was intended as a shelter for theatre-goers, but was afterwards turned into barracks for gladiators. With a similar purpose, a colonnade of the Doric order was built along two sides of the triangular level space about the Greek temple, in front of the north end, where the two arms of the colonnade met. A high portico of the Ionic order was erected facing the street, thus forming a monumental entrance to the theatre. The southwest side of the area was left unobstructed, and the place, by reason of its shape, is called the Forum Triangulaire, three-cornered forum. It's cool, you're a phantom, so you're already dead. I guess so. Do I have to talk to myself and argue with myself to be Gollum? Wait, I already do that. So you brainstorm ideas. Yeah, if you're not talking to yourself, are you really brainstorming properly? In connection with the buildings of the theatre, land had been expropriated and cleared as far north as the first East and West Street. Here, near the entrance of the Forum Triangulaire, the Palestra for gymnastic exercises was built. With funds left for public purposes by a benevolent citizen, later, probably not before the time of the Roman colony, a temple of Isis was erected, adjoining the theatre on the northeast. Early in the Roman period, not long after 80 BC, a small roofed theatre was constructed east of the stage of the large theatre and of the area at the rear. Stabian Street, north and south of the small theatre, was lined with private houses. At the northeast corner of the block was a temple to Zeus Malicious. He is malicious. Malicious. Seemingly of early date, but entirely rebuilt about the time the small theatre was erected. Part of the columns and entablature belonging to the beautiful portico at the entrance of the Forum Triangular have been set up again and are seen in our illustration. The brackets projecting from the rear wall were probably designed for statues or vases. When the wall was rebuilt after the earthquake of '63, a change was made in at least one particular. The small doorway at the middle, now at right angles with the wall, formerly passed obliquely through it, opening toward the end of the promenade, which was laid out in front of the colonnade at the left. This promenade was separated from the area of the Forum by a low wall. On sunny winter days, it must have been most frequently walked in the city. When Stabian got its string. Yeah, I wonder about that too. It sounds very violent. It's probably Stabian, not Stabian. I'm just like pronouncing it wrong. It should probably be Stabian Street, not Stabian. It's like Britain having a place called Shanking Avenue. I imagine that probably exists somewhere. Somewhere Shanking Avenue exists, or at least a street that has the word shank in. We have Shoot Up Hill. Oh, you have a Shoot Up Hill? Wonderful. Terrible, but wonderful. Bop. So this is the Greek temple and the Forum Triangular, seen from the south, restoration by Weinstadt. Thank you, Weinstadt. Very pretty drawing. Shoot Up Hill is in North London. Lol. That makes so much sense. There's a place called Tomboy Mines in America. Oh, of course there is. Besides a small doorway, which was closed by a lattice gate hung from a wooden jab. There was, at the left, a massive double door with strong bolts inside, of which still a second door. It seemed odd that one entrance should be so securely closed, while the fastenings of the other were so light. Ordinarily, large doors must have been kept shut, while the small entrance was left open for everyday use, but when there was to be play in the theatre, and the magistrate who gave the entertainment proceeded from the Forum with a retinue in festival attire, then the great doors were swung back in honour of the occasion, and the opening of them formed a part of an impressive ceremony. Oh yeah, because we know from when we read the Forum section that a lot of, whenever there was like a play on or something like that, the politicians did a little parade to go get there. So that must be part of that. The portico at the entrance of the Forum. The colonnade within contained 95 Doric columns. It was only one story in height, and the columns, for this reason, are more slender than those of the same order in the Forum. The entablature varies from the Doric type only in respect to architecture, which consists of two bands. The continuation of the colonnade along the southwest side was prevented by the nearness of the temple to the edge of the cliff. Here, the magnificent view over the plain of the mountains and across the bay was unimpeded for the enjoyment of it. Two dumvires in the early years of the empire built near the west corner of the temple a semicircular stone seat, like those found in connection with tombs. On the back, they placed a sundial with the inscription El Septimus LF Sandilianos H Wizardry. Lucius Septinus Sandilius, son of Lucius and Marcus Hieronymus, Epidanus, son of Alanus, dumvires with judiciary authority caused the seat and the sundial to be made at their own expense. Everyone likes putting labels on the shit they paid for. Hey, I paid for this, by the way. Livers, laughers, lovers, indeed. 10 out of 10 Latin pronunciation, basically native Rome. I'm a Roman demigod and I didn't even know it. That's where tomboys come from. We get them from the mines. The tomboys yearn for the mines. So the view of the forum looking toward Vesuvius, that's Vesuvius in the background. At the left, the remains of the Doric temple, and at the right of the altars and well house in front of it. At the right exterior, the large theatre. So you got the theatre over there, and then the thing. Alice and Gaius, the dude from the graffiti I mentioned last time. Alice is a name that keeps coming up. Alice was a big guy in this guy. He's been I think he was probably in politics here at least, because he's been mentioned a lot. Good old Alice and good old Gaius. Not only did they do top 10 out of 10 shitposting graffiti that has lasted thousands of years, they were also very rich. I paid for this, therefore I am rich. Praise me. Yes. The same dummies, as we have seen, set up the sundial in the court of the Temple of Apollo. Yeah! I thought we'd mentioned we'd seen those names. These guys like to build stuff. They have money and they put things to use. At the foot of the middle column, at the north end of the colonnade, is a broad basin of Carrara. Marble resting on a finely proportioned fluted standard. A jet of water fell into it from the end of a pipe which passed through the column above. A little further forward is a pedestal veneered with marble on which the inscription M. Claudio C.F. Marcello Patrano. To Marcus Claudius Marcellus, the son of Gaius, hey, it's the other guy, patron. Here stood a statue of Marcellus, the nephew of Augustus, a portrait statue of whom we have already found in the imperial chapel of the Maleseum. The reason why he was honoured with more than one statue is clear from the inscription before us. He was patron of the colony. The surface of the forum triangulae was considerably lighter than the top of the city wall. South of the barracks of the gladiators, it seemed like that a flight of steps led down to the wall between the barracks and the long colonnade. As seen in Wetchard's restoration, This explanation accounts for the existence of certain remains of walls L on the plan, the purpose of which is otherwise obscure. Number 1, chatter guys. Number 2, chatter allies. Yes. They're here. 2 dear men, friends forever, to whose wish to know our name, Gaius and Alice. They're good besties and they were very rich. That much we can know. Of the ancient Doric temple, but little remains, only the foundation, which was high for a Greek temple, with a flight of steps in front, 2 stumps of columns, and traces of a third 4 capitals, and portions of the right wall for the cellar. The plan of the cellar, however, has been traced by means of excavation. So I assume this is the cellar that the plan for the Doric temple. So this is the Doric temple. We have the colonnade outside, the outer chamber of the cellar, the inner chamber of the cellar, the semicircle bench. 4? What's 4? Out here. Semicircle bench. 5 is a small enclosure, and 6 is some altars, and 7 is a well house. Well. The foundation, unlike the podiums of the other temples at Pompeii, was built up in a series of broad, high steps. The number of the columns, 11 on the sides and 7 in the front, as the temple of Zeus at Agrigentum, has been calculated from the distances between the stumps. Of those in front, 2 were opposite the corners of the cellar, where the edges of the flight of steps come to the stylobate. Only a narrow space was needed between the walls of the cellar and the surrounding columns, but in order to make the outward appearance more imposing, the columns were set out as far as they would have been if a second series had been placed within. Between them and the cellar, according to the classification of Vitruvius, the temple was a pseudo-dipterial. Use all your money on me. Good investments. Together you fight crime. You do crime? Fight crime? Do crime? Be gay, do crime? It is July. It is be gay, do crime time, right? What is it? British Temple. On account of the interval thus afforded between the entrance of the cellar and the colonnades, and the columns in front, little over 16 feet. No, it's June. It is Pride Month here. This is British Pride Month. It is be gay do crime time. Is it not? It's Pride Month. Can't wait for Wrath Month. I love Sloth Month. Sloth Month is my favorite. Gay Sloth Month. We get to just have naps. It's wonderful. Pseudo-dibber, or meaning falsely dipterial. Pseudo-dipterial describes an ancient Greek temple with a single peristyle surrounding the cellar at the distance of 2 intercolumns at 1 column. Not copied from Wikipedia. You're so smart, Benjamin. You sound like Wikipedia. Lizzie Vtuber. Yeah, I am. I like sleep, you know? Sleep's great. Would be surprised if she streamed from my bed. I would. If I could, I would. If I could, I would sleep from my bed. I would be in my PJs, all snuggled up and reading to you from my bed. I would do that. 100%. It's every month. Staff month is just December. That's true. That's true. Oh, no. We don't let food near the bed. We do not let food near the bed. We do not eat. We let tea go near the bed, but we don't let bickies go near the bed. If you're gonna have tea in bed, you don't have bickies. Them the rules. We don't get crumbs in bed. That's awful. I hate it. Hey, did Briony fall asleep 30 minutes into stream again? That would happen. That would 100% happen. Oh, hi, Jenny Santa. P is in pseudo. It's silent, FYI. That's true. That's true. That's true. How about drink the biscuits instead? I have biscuit-flavored tea. I had chocolate digestive-flavored tea a while ago, so yes, you can drink the biscuits. What about one bed for eating, one bed for sleeping? No. If you get in and you can feel the crumbs, then we're not doing it. We can't be doing it. We can't be having crumbs in bed. It feels bad, bro. Feels bad. No. No. Awful. I dare you even suggest. Where the hell was I up to? Just like the old sayings, you can have your biscuits and drink them too. Yes! The temple was of mixed construction, part stone and part wood. The entablature must have been of stone, otherwise the intercolumnizations would have been... I love that this is a word I have discovered reading this. Intercolumnizations. Freaking wonderful word to say. I highly recommend you say it with me. Intercolumnizations. It's good. I feel smart while reading it. Would not have been so narrow. The space between the entablature and the cellar, however, could only have been bridged by means of timbers. The stone used was the grey tufa, but the capitals were of the more durable Sarno limestone. The surface was coated with stucco, which, in part at least, was painted in bright colours. The projecting edge of the eaves, though also covered in stucco, was painted red, yellow, and black, and ornamented with waterspouts in the shape of lions' heads, alternating with rosettes. Got there eventually. So that's the Doric temple restored. That picture there. There is no Z in the word Briony, but the Briony do like the Z. Intercombination. Intercucombination. The proportion of the columns, lower diameter 6.07 feet, upper diameter 3.12 feet. It doesn't tell me if that's Roman or Oscan feet. With their flaring capitals and their narrower intercolumnizations pointed to an earlier period. The archaic character of the capitals will be more fully appreciated if they are compared with those of the colonnade of the Forum. Hello, Sunny. Right, I have a great idea for Baba Yaga Game 2. Baba Yaga Game 2. The Wakened Flame. Please look up Rizbel. The Star Psyche Imagine. I don't know what that is. Whatever feet the writer came from. I can't remember where he's from. It did say at the start where Mr. Mr. Mao was from, but I can't remember. In respect to age, this temple ranks with the oldest of those at Selinunto. It must have been built in the 60th century BC. The cellar, as our plan shows, was divided into 2 chambers. In the inner chamber, a large rectangular flag is embedded in the floor at one side, so that a second, indicated on the plan by dotted lines, must have been near it. The supports of a stone table in front of the image of the divinity perhaps rested on them. On the long pedestal at the right of the cellar stood a deer of terracotta, above life size, of which some fragments have been found. Rizbel, the older brother of Sambel. You remember that Red Riding Hood Yu-Gi-Oh card? No. I have no idea what you're talking about. Directly in front of the temple, at the foot of the steps, we find a monument of an altogether unusual character. The respect with which it was regarded is evidenced by its location in the place ordinarily occupied by the principal altar. It consists of a small enclosure of peculiar shape, fenced by an outer wall and low in a wall. To judge from its form, it must have been a place of burial. We shall find a tomb later in the plan of which is quite similar, and it is said that human bones were found here. The walls are not earlier than the imperial period, but they must have taken the place of an older structure, for the altars were evidently put over the east corner of the temple. 6 on the plan. English feet. Alright, ready? My feet are kind of small. The author was German, but the plan 3 showed a scale with meters and English feet. I think they're using English feet. That's not boring! We like to know! Having the specifics of good information, that's why we're reading things. So we can know what buildings look like. I mean, that sounds really boring, but if this book has told me anything, it's that I feel like I could read anything on this channel and people would listen, and that's really fun because that means there's no limits as to what I can read. We can read a history book, we can read whatever we want all the day, and without copyright, that is, you know, copyright stuff to deal with that. Yeah, by all means, it's not boring. If you have any extra info, you throw it out. You show off your knowledge. Join us next week where Briony reads the Manchester phone book from 93. Good. For giggles, we could do that. I did do my ASMR reading of the dictionary. Rightio. Where was I? Fence up by an outer wall, lower inner wall. To judge from this, it must have been a place of burial. Yep, we know that. The walls are not earlier in the Imperial period. Yep. Let's go from there. The walls are not earlier than the Imperial period, but they must have taken the place of an older structure, for the altars were evidently put over near the east corner of the temple. 6 on the plan. Sorry. because the place which they would naturally have had was already occupied. For the time, how long it would be idle to conjecture. This was, beyond doubt, the most important temple of the city. The placing of the tomb in the most sacred spot in front of it suggests that the founder or founders of the city may have been buried here, and afterwards revered as heroes. Instead of a single altar in front of the temple, there are 3, all made of blocks of tufa. 2 of them resting on a single foundation. The third is built on the ground without a foundation, and is of later date. One altar is larger than the other 2, and its surface is divided into 3 parts. Not far from the altar are the remains of a small round structure, about 12 feet in diameter. The foot, supported by 8 Doric columns, was over the mouth of a well, which had been driven down through the old lava bed till living water was found for clearing the temple for religious rites. According to the Oscan inscription on the architrave, the wall house was built by N. Tiribus, chief administrative officer of the city. I wanted to say like Tiribus or Tyrianids, and then I knew I was getting into like Warhammer territory. By N. Tyrianids. Briony reads the company Bible. Trebus. I want to hear Briony read a light novel, but make all the phrases as British as possible. I'm sure we could find... I'm allowed to read light novel previews. So if you have a particular light novel you would like to do that with, I can read up to 10% of any book. Because that's how much they give out for free anyway. So, by all means, recommend some. It is impossible to determine what divinities were worshipped here. The placing of 2 altars together, one being divided into 3 parts, and the addition of a third, seem to imply that 3 divinities receive worship in common, and that besides these 2 other gods were honoured in this sanctuary. The terracotta deer furnishes a clue, but not decisive evidence. Deer were sacred to several divinities, among others to Apollo and Artemis. Marble torso of about half-life size found on the Deliphases south of the temple has been identified with some degree of probability as belonging to a statue of Apollo. Perhaps originally Apollo and Artemis were honoured here, and with them Leto, their mama. But in an Oscan inscription discovered in 1897, the temple seems to be designated as belonging to Minerva, who was perhaps also worshipped with them. At the time of the eruption, the temple was in ruins. It may have been in this condition only since the earthquake of 63, or for a longer time, that the worship might not be abandoned. A poor shrine was built among the ruins, smaller than the old cellar and little further to the right. A drum of a column set up on the flag in the floor of the cellar served as a pedestal for the image of divinity. Too clan but everyone sounds like Michael K. I don't know how to do that. The large theatre, not the small theatre, not the medium theatre, the large theatre. We'll take the large. Performances upon the stage were first given in Rome in the year 364 BC. A pestilence was raging, and the Romans thought to appease the gods by a new kind of celebration in their honour. The performers were brought from Etruria, and the exercises were limited to dancing with an accompaniment on the flute. There was as yet no Latin drama. The first regular play was presented more than a century later in 240 BC, and the playwright was not a Roman but a Greek from Tarentum, Livius Andronicus, who translated both tragedies and comedies from his native tongue. The next dramatist was Cambion, Gnaeus Navius. The building of the theatre was not yet thought of. A temporary wooden platform was erected for actors, and the spectators spread themselves out on the green slope of a hillside facing it. So basically it was always used for plays, but eventually they decided to actually build on it. Fun fact about Apollo and Artemis, I don't think there are any ancient writings that actually call the two of them as twins. So that's just something we've kind of added because of the whole sun and moon stuff, I guess. So they've always been siblings, but potentially not actually twins. God's watching the performance. Oh man, this guy stinks. Increase the pestilence! But then you got the opposite of, wow, this one's amazing. Let's give him a sunny day tomorrow. That would be lovely. How about a bountiful harvest this year? Yeah. That guy was really funny. When the censor Cassius Longinus of 154 BC commenced the erection of a theatre on the Palatine Hill near the temple of Cybele, at whose festival plays were given, the ex-consul Scipio Nascia rose in the Senate and in a speech full of feeling warned the Romans not to countenance this foreign amusement. Don't listen to the plays, they're new and strange. We love when the word erection is used in a sensible sense so that we can giggle at it. His words produced so deep an impression that the Senate not only voted to pull down the part of the building already erected, and refused permission, the erection was pulled down, and refused permission for the erection of similar buildings in the future, but even prohibited altogether the renting of seats at theatrical representations. Oh my god, the theatre! We have to get rid of it! Get rid of it! There's too much freedom of expression going on. Get rid of it. My Roman soul is cringing at the name pronunciation. I'm fine. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all. I suck. And I will own it. Romans who wish to see a play must remain standing during a performance or sit on the ground. Naturally, so stringent measures could not long remain in force. 9 years later, Mumminus, the destroyer of Corinth, presented dramas in connection with his triumph, and put up wooden seats for the spectators. The first stone theatre in Rome was built by Pompeii, but with a Y, not with two I's. The rival of Caesar in 55 BC in Pompeii. 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 On the contrary, a permanent theatre had been erected at least 100 years earlier. The Oscan culture was so completely merged with that of Rome that our knowledge of it as an independent development is extremely slight, and no information has come down to us regarding the history of the native drama. From literary sources, we know only of a crude form of popular comedy in which, as the Italian commedia dell'arte, there were stock characters distinguished by their masks. Ah, I know this! A little bit. Mume, the destroyer of Corinth. Yes, Mume. Yeah, how do you pronounce Longinus? Longinus. Longinus. Longinus or Longinus? Thank you for telling me that, because I always thought... Again, Fate's coming up again. But Fate... Oh, what was it? The one boy... Fate Requiem, yes, has the guy who has the spear that's called Longinus. So I always wanted to know how to pronounce that. So always a hard G, not a J. Cool. Good to know. Longinus. Which sounds very close to something else. Anyway, Macus, a buffoon, Bucco, a voracious, talkative lout, Pappus, an old man who is always cheated, and Dulcinus, a knave. Scene of these expeditions was always Atella, the Gotham of Campania, whence they were all Atellian farces. The spear also vanished during World War II. It did. Spear Longinus, the spear said to have stabbed Jesus Christ on the cross. Yes, that one! It's featured in a lot of media, obviously. We've all know. We've all watched, I don't know, something or other that's referenced it. But it was in Fate Requiem too. And reappeared in the first Hellboy and Constantine movies. Yes, it did. It was also in Legends of Tomorrow, the CW DC show that was just amazing, and it left off at the worst point, and I need another season because we were about to have a gay lesbian baby, and it was great. And they were gonna go to time jail, and I want Sarah to have her baby with her wife, and it would have been great because they did alien nonsense so they could have a biological lesbian baby, and I needed it in my life. Yeah. There was a lesbian couple, and then there was some alien shit, and then one of them was pregnant, and then they found out it was the other ladies because alien nonsense made it so they could have a biological baby, and we love it. And I want them to have their baby and live happily ever after, but I'll never get it. I loved that show. So much nonsense. It was like an American DC Doctor Who. It was wonderful. I thought that would make the baby into a Time Lord. Sorry. Basically, yes. It was a time travel show. It was, like I said, American DC Doctor Who, where we had a former Doctor Who companion playing the main time traveler. So he was basically playing Doctor Who in that one. It was great. The theatre at Pompeii, however, is proof that as early as the 2nd century BC, in at least one Cambrian city, dramatic representations of a high order were given. Here, perhaps, as at Athens, they were associated with the worship of Dionysus, for the satyrs were companions of the wine god, and the head of a satyr carved in tufa still projects from the keystone of the arch at the outer end of one of the vaulted passages leading to the orchestra. Greek verse and native verse, modelled after the Greek, must have gained a hearing at Pompeii and the works of Oscan poets, not a line of which had come down to us, must have stirred the hearts of the people long before Lydius Andronicus, and Navius, who brought inspiration from his Cambrian home, produced their dramas at Rome. What city was filled with oh yeah, I am saying exactly the wrong thing. Campanian, not Cambrian. Not the Cambrian explosion, the Campanian home. In describing the theatre, it will be best to take a step up in order the three main divisions common to Greek and Roman buildings of this class: a cavea, the large outer part shaped somewhat like half a funnel containing seats for spectators; the orchestra, the small semicircular portion enclosed by a cavea with an entrance, pardus, on either side, and the stage facing the orchestra and the cavea. The accompanying illustrations give a plan, and a view of the ruins in their present condition. The exterior, as seen from the south, showed in Fig 61, which is a while ago. Oh no! The cavea afforded seats for about 500 persons. The greater part of it, from the orchestra to the vaulted corridor under the summa cavea, lies on the slope of the hill, the floor of the corridor on a level with the forum triangulella. So this is it. This is... So this is a pretty familiar setup, really. Like, I don't think theatres have changed that much in this time. So we've got 1 is the dressing room, 2 is the stage, 3 is the orchestra. Yeah, honestly, like, we know how to throw a play. Because things haven't changed much in the last few years. Tribunulus and McCabe. What's the 8 though? Tank for saffron water. I want an explanation to that. Beasts and is animals, but wild ones. What does beasts mean? Beasts? I don't know. You guys are doing golem things. Saffron water. Exactly. What is saffron water? Saffron's an expensive herb, as far as I know. The seats are arranged in 3 semicircular sections. The lowest, ima, cavea, next to the orchestra, contains 4 broad ledges on which, as well as the orchestra itself, the members of the city council, the decurions, could place their chairs at the seats of double width. The middle section, media cavea, was much deeper, extending from the ima cavea to the vaulted corridor. It contained 20 rows of marble seats arranged like steps, of which only a small portion is preserved. On a part of these individual places, a little less than 16 inches wide, are marked off by vertical lines in front and numbered. They probably belong to some corporation which found it necessary, in order to avoid confusion, to assign places to its members by number. In Rome, the 14 rows nearest the bottom are reserved for the knights, Whether a similar arrangement prevailed in the municipalities and the colonies is not known. But if so, the number reserved here must have been smaller. Is saffron particularly aromatic? Do you think it was used to hide the stench of unwashed masses? Maybe. Like I said, I'm really hoping we get a bit more of an explanation on that. The upper section, Summa Cavea, supported by the vault over the corridor, was too narrow to have contained more than 4 rows of seats. The Ima Cavea was entered from the orchestra. From the Media Cavea could be entered from on the lower side from the passage between it and the Ima Cavea, which at the ends was connected by short flights of steps with the paradoi leading outside. On the upper side, 6 doors opened into the Media Cavea from the corridor, from which flights of steps descended, dividing the seats into 5 wedge-like blocks, with a small oblong block in addition on the either side at the end of the stage. The corridor was accessible by 4 doors, one from the Forum Triangular, other from the open space between this and the rounded exterior of the theatre, a third at the end of an alley east of the Temple of Isis, and a 4th opening from a steep passage leading up from Stabian Street. The Summa Cavea, which, for convenience, we will call the gallery, was entered by several doors. The exact number is uncertain. From a narrow vaulted passage along the outside, this passage, however, did not extend the whole length of the gallery, but stopped where the outer wall of the theatre joined that of the Forum Triangular. Here a stairway led to it. There was a secondary stairway at the rear of the Palasteria, and a third leading from the alley east of the Temple of Isis. The 3 are shown on Plan 3. At the edge of the Forum Triangular, a narrow stairway built in the thick wall led directly to the gallery. The outer wall back of the gallery rose to a considerable height above the last row of seats. On the inside, near the top, were projecting blocks of basalt, continuing round holes, in which strong wooden masts were set. From these, the great awning, was stretched over the cavea and orchestra to the roof of the stage, protecting spectators from the sun. This sort of covering for the theatre was a Campanian invention, and here, where the cavea opened towards the south, was especially necessary. In the Colosseum, and the well-preserved theatre at Orange, the arrangements for fascinating the masts are on the outside of the wall. The upper part of the wall of our theatre has been rebuilt in modern times, and it has been doubted whether the blocks of basalt and the pierces of cordis above the corresponding incisions are ancient. The latter surely are not modern, and their slightly wedged shape shows that from the beginning they must have been on the inside of the wall, projecting a spectator from the sun. I didn't know the sun had spectators. That's what everyone needed glasses after that play when they asked you to spectate the sun. No one could see afterwards. Near the front of the orchestra, at the right and the left, were small rectangular platforms. One is shown in this fig. They were supported by the vaults over the entrances, and were reached by small stairways near the end of the stage. They were called tribunals, and here, as in Rome, they were doubtless reserved for the seats of those whom special honour was paid. One was set aside for the use of the magistrate who gave the play. In Rome, the Vestal Virgins, in accordance with a decree of Augustus, occupied the other, and in Pompeii their place was likely taken by the city priestesses. The shape of the orchestra is that of a semicircle enlarged in the direction of tangents at right angles, with the diameter a complete circle could be inscribed in the space. It was probably never used for a chorus, but was occupied by the seats of prominent spectators, particularly the city officials and their friends. It was entered by means of the vaulted passages under the tribunals. Geometry. The steps leading from the orchestra up upon the stage can be explained only in the supposition. Only on the soup. Only on the soup that even in the Roman period to which the steps in their present form belong, actors who took the part of persons arriving from distant places came upon the stage through the orchestra in the niches in front of the stage, as we learn from a wall painting. Sat those charged with the maintenance of order in the theatre, two perhaps in the rectangular niches, or one in the semicircular niche in the middle. Why? I'm looking for clothes! That's why! I can't find any clothes! Pompeii was technically destroyed by ancient soup. Yes, ancient molten soup. The stage is long and narrow, measuring 120 by 24 Oscan feet. The floor is a little more than 3 feet above the level of the orchestra. The rear wall, as in ancient theatres, generally was built to represent the front of a palace, entered by 3 doors, and adorned with columns and niches for statues. In each of the short sections of wall at the end of the stage is a broad doorway extending across almost the entire space. The long and narrow room behind the stage, used as a dressing room, was entered by a door at the rear, which was reached by an inclined approach. No trace of the roof of the stage remains, but from the better preserved theatres at Orange, in the south of France, and at Aspendius in Asia Minor, we infer that it sloped back towards the rear wall. The floor was of wood. The room underneath the stage was divided into several parts. Between the front wall and that of the back of it was the place for the curtain, which, as in Roman theatres, was let down at the beginning of the play and raised at the end. The space between the parallel walls must have been covered, leaving only a narrow slit for the curtain. Otherwise, it would not have been easy to go upon the stage from the steps in the orchestra. Underneath the place for the curtain is a low passage, in the vaulted roof of which are 2 rows of holes, a little more than a foot square, cut in blocks of basalt, and evidently designed to hold upright timbers. This passage has, in recent years, been entirely cleared. In the floor, directly under the openings in the vaulted roof, and corresponding with them, were square holes. In those nearer the front of the stage were remnants of timbers of square pieces of iron fitted to the end of these, a larger and a smaller piece for each hole. It seems likely that, as Mazo suggested, hollow upright beams
was set in the holes, and in them smaller hollow beams were placed in, which were still smaller poles or iron rods. By the siding of these up and down, the long horizontal pole on which the curtain was hung could be raised and lowered. The use of the inner row of holes has not been satisfactorily explained. Nope. Telescoping poles with ancient style. Yes! Had to raise and lower that big curtain somehow. The room under the right of the stage is so low, about 3 feet, that it could not have been available for any purpose, but that at the left is higher, and was used for theatrical machinery, the scanty remains of which arouse our curiosity without satisfying it. In the floors are set 2 oblong blocks of limestone, about 4 feet in length. Each has its upper surface a round hole, between 2 and 3 inches deep, with an iron socket in which there are still remains of an iron cap once fitted to the lower end of a vertical wooden shaft that turned in it. The upper end of the shaft, assuming that the blocks are in their original position, must have revolved in a socket fixed on one of the joists of the stage floor. Besides, on the upper surface of each block a rectangular depression, and on each side a shallow incision. The purpose is altogether obscure. A third stone similar to these 2 is set in the north wall of the same room, and opposite it was fitted another. Here, there, a horizontal shaft turned, and there was a similar pair of stones at the left end of the place for the curtain. These arrangements suggest the crane-like machine by which floating figures were brought upon the stage, as Medea in the play of Euripides, riding in a chariot drawn by dragons, and the familiar Deus Ex Machina, much machinery according to Pollux, was placed on the left side of the stage. Oh, so they had some pretty cool, theatrical machinery going on. And potentially people in harnesses and stuff like that. Very fun. When plays were presented, the front of the palace at the back of the stage was concealed by painted scenery. As several pieces might be produced one after another, it was necessary to arrange for the shifting of scenes. This was accomplished by drawing one set of decorations off to the side, thus bringing the next set into view. The ends were changed by turning the huge 3-sided prisms, each side of which suited a different scene. In spite of the clumsiness of the arrangements, as contrasted with those of the best modern theatres, the mounting of plays was artistic and impressive, and compares favourably with that of Shakespeare's time. Cool! The only allusions to matters connected with theatrical representations at Pompeii are in inscriptions relating to actors at Sorex. A number of graffiti scratched on walls in various parts of the city mention an Actius Anicetus, whose name is given in full in an inscription found in Puteloisi. Omidius Actius Anicetus. Anicetus. He seems to have been a very popular actor of pantomime at the head of a troupe. One of the inscriptions read, Acti amor Populis setorari, Actius, darling of the people, come back quickly. They had their favourite actors. And he said us. The theatre in antiquity was by no means reserved for scenic representations alone. It was a convenient place for bringing the people together, and was used for public gatherings of the most varied character. Truly Robert Downey Jr. of his time. Yeah. Downey Jr., who is at the moment? Pedro Pascal, I feel like, is everywhere at the moment. Many things. Shutigagwa, why did you leave me? Anyway. It was a convenient place for gatherings. It was used for public gatherings of the most varied character. In the theatre of Tarentum, the memorable assembly met which heaped insults upon the Roman ambassadors and precipitated war with Rome. So not only was the theatre used for theatre, but it was also used to insult the Romans. At Pergamus, King Mithridates was to be crowned in the theatre by a descending victory, but by some mishap, it's a maiden raid, it's a maiden raid, it's a maiden raid, woo! Hello, maiden, welcome. Hello, those who came with her. But due to some mishap, the wreath fell to the floor, an omen of evil. When the Ephesians, stirred up by Demetrius the silversmith, wished to take measures against Paul and his companions, they rushed with one accord into the theatre. On such occasions we may suppose that the front of the palace, the rear of the stage, served as a background without other decoration. This use of the theatre for general purposes was a Greek rather than Roman custom, but the theatre itself in Italy was an importation from Greece. Suppose that the theatre at Pompeii was on more than one occasion the scene of notable demonstrations. Mithridates is how I thought it was pronounced. I think he had a war with Caesar. Makes sense. Help, why after you said that did it give me a Karate Kid? I went to see Karate Kid, actually. It's alright. Good time. Good little movie. Pacing issues. But, you know, had a good time. Demetrius the silversmith and Paul are from the Bible, as everyone in 1902 knows. Yeah, I know that. Totes, brah. Our theatre, as is evident from the character of the construction in its original form, belonged to the tougher period, but was rebuilt in Roman times. Some particulars in regard to the rebuilding are given an inscription. Marcus Holcornius Rufus and Marcus Holcornius Sella, the crypt, the tribunals, and the part designed for spectators. Built it. They built those things. The part designed for spectators. I suppose they didn't call it the gallery back then. We've only called it the gallery for our convenience. But it's the part for spectators.
That is the vaulted corridor under the gallery, the platforms over the entrances to the orchestra and the cavea. The two Holconi lived. Holconi. That is not how it's said, but we're saying it anyway. Lived in the time of Augustus. The elder Rufus was Duumvir of the 4th term in 322 BC. The work on the theatre was probably done about that time, for soon afterwards, before his 5th Duumvirate, a statue in his honour was erected in the theatre. As we learn from an inscription later in 13 to 14 AD, the younger Holoconus also, when he had been chosen quintennial Duumvir, was honoured with a statue. Holcogony, indeed. The masonry of the corridor and of the exterior arches supporting it, hello Matthew, welcome, as well as of the tribunals, well agrees with that in vogue in the Augustan age. We find brick-shaped blocks of tougher and reticulate work. The marble seats in the cavea may be assigned to the same period. In the original structure, the benches must have been of tougher. About the same time, the present wall at the back of the stage was built, in the place of an older and much simpler facade, but not by the Holoconi. If this also had been rebuilt by them, it would have been mentioned in the inscription. Possibly the tribunals were an addition due to the Holoconi. The corridor under the gallery, however, must have been built in the place of an earlier corridor, for the piers on the outside rest on foundations similar in character to the oldest parts of the building. As these piers served no other purpose than to sustain the passage opening into the section of seats above the corridor, this must have been formed as part of the original plan. The statues of both Holconi probably stood in niches in the wall at the back of the stage. Holoconus Rufus was further honoured with a monument of some sort in the cavea. The lowest seat of the media cavea had at the middle, directly opposite the stage, a double width for a distance of about 5 feet, gained by removing a portion of the next seat above. Here was an inscription in bronze letters, dedicated in accordance with a decree of the city council of Marcus Holconius Rufus, son of Marcus, 5 times Duumvir with judiciary authority, twice quintennial Duumvir, military tribune by the choice of the people, priest of Augustus, and patron of the colony. The object placed here was of bronze, and was made secure by fastening set of 12 holes. What it was is altogether uncertain. So they have this inscription, but they don't actually know what the inscription is referring to. The ancients had the custom of conferring lasting honour upon a deserving man after death by placing in the theatre a seat inscribed with his name, so you could sit on it. Sit on the inscriptions. It's like when people get a park bench. We should be glad to believe that a seat of double-width basileum, the use of which was allowed to members of the city council, was placed here, but the arrangement of the 12 holes is difficult to reconcile with this explanation. The architecture employed by Holconi a freedman, was not honoured with a statue, but his name was transmitted to posterity in an inscription placed in the outer wall near the east entrance of the orchestra. Marcus Artorius Primus, freedman of Marcus, architect. Did Pompeii have its own military tribunes, or did Rome decide who became military tribunes? I assumed they did before they got taken over, but then when the Roman colony moved in, Rome probably did it. Probably Rome. The plan of the theatre could not have been taken from a Roman model. It conforms, as we should have expected, to the Greek type. In the Roman theatre, the orchestra was in the form of a semicircle, of which the diameter was represented by the stage. In Greek theatres, on the contrary, the stage, according to Vtuber, was laid out on one side of a square, inscribed in a circle of the orchestra. I need to drink. As shown was this to remain in most cases was either a complete circle or was so extended by tangents at the side that a circle could be inscribed in it. The latter is the case in our theatre, of which the orchestra had essentially the same form as that of the theatre of Dionysus in Athens. The stage falls under the limit of height, 5 feet, allowed by Vtuber for the stage of the Roman theatre, not to mention the height of 10 to 12 feet specified for that of the Greek type. The reason assigned for the moderate elevation of the Greek stage is that the orchestra was occupied by the seats of senators, whose view would be obstructed if more than a moderate elevation should be given to the front of the stage. I see. The orchestra of our theatre was apparently from the beginning intended for use of spectators, not for a chorus. The conclusions reached by Dr. William Dörpfeld in regard to the stage of the Greek theatre, if borne out by the facts, would necessitate a complete abandonment of previous views on the subject. His theory, in brief, is that not only the chorus, but also the actors went through their parts not on the stage, but in the orchestra, which had the form of a circle, and that we are accustomed to consider the front wall of the stage rather than the rear wall of the platform in the orchestra on which the actors and chorus stood, this wall being laid out on a tangent of the circle, and having a height of 12 feet, as we may understand from Vtuber and from the remains of the theatre at Epidaurus. The reasons advanced in support of this theory are that the perform currently regarded as the stage, which according to Vtuber and the existing remains was hardly more than 10 feet wide, must have been too narrow to allow free movement on the part of the actors, and that the height above the orchestra was too great to admit of the close relation between the actors and the chorus, of which there is abundant evidence in the exact dramas. According to Mr. Dörpfeld, the stage came into existence in Italy first, and in the Roman period, when there was no longer any chorus, a platform 5 feet high was built for the actors, extending the middle of the orchestra. This now took the form of a semicircle and could be used for the seats of spectators. Ah, so we can blame the Romans for stages. We didn't normally have those. To undertake the examination of Mr. Dörpfeld's theory in detail would not be pertinent here. Yet we cannot bring our description of the theatre at Pompeii to a close without inquiring whether this structure, which is perhaps a century older than the oldest Roman theatre, shows any trace of the arrangement which the theory assumes. Unfortunately, the evidence is not conclusive for either a negative or an affirmative answer. Just as this second edition goes to press, a joint investigation of the whole matter has been undertaken by the author and Mr. Doperfeld, whose work is being facilitated by excavations. It is yet too early to anticipate the conclusions to which the evidence thus gained will lead. We may hazard a tentative statement in regarding to only 1 or 2 points. That's fascinating! That's another thing to look at. I'm making a small list of things I want to research for potential videos, for potential extra info, but looking into the joint expedition between August Mao and Mr. Dr. Doperfeld, and seeing if 70 or so years in the future, as we are, see if they've got any more conclusions from this. So, Dr. Doperfeld and August Mao joint investigation. I'll look that up. We'll see if they've got any more info. It now appears probable that the present stage was not constructed at the same time with the other parts of the theatre, but that it is a later addition. 70 years, that would put us in 1970s, 80s, since August Mao died in 1980. I only say 70 years because that's how long it takes for a book to lose its copyright, basically. So this book has to be at least that old to be on Gutenberg in the first place. But if he died a lot later, then yeah, this is going to be a bit older than that. Lucky us, we have the power of time travel. We do have the power of time travel. It's amazing. It now appears probable that that present stage was not constructed later edition. There is no trace of an earlier stage, and there is nothing to indicate that this was built against the part of the structure designed for the spectators. We might assume that this earlier stage was placed at a slight distance from other parts of the building, and that the entrances of the orchestra and the paradoi lay between were it not for the fact that the outer doorways of the present paradoi, notably that on the west side with the head of a satyr on the keystone, unquestionably belonged to the original structure. And we should not be warranted in assuming 2 entrances to the orchestra on each side. At the same time, it is evident that the construction of the tribunilla must have involved a rebuilding of this part of the theatre, and it is possible that original passages led from the outer doors of the present paradoi not to the orchestra but to the ranges of seats. That case, assuming that the stage was slightly removed from the rest of the structure, we may freely grant that the acting may have gone in front of it rather than upon it, and that this may have been a Greek theatre according to Doperfeld's view. But we are here dealing with only possibilities. It is to be hoped that further investigation will bring to light data for a final solution to the problem. That's very fun. I kind of like it. I think one of the most fun things in books like this is not knowing. Not knowing. We don't know. We just got to assume. We don't have specific evidence yet. In the open space between the theatre, the forum, and the palestria, There is a deep reservoir for water. Are we finally going to know about the saffron water? Square on the outside and round within, it was evidently used for sprinkling with saffron-coloured water, by which, on the summer days, the heat of the theatre was mollified. That such sprinklings were in vogue in Pompeii is known from announcements of gladiatorial combatants painted on walls, in which are advertised together with an oaring as part of the attraction. Oh, okay, so it wasn't quite for the stinky masses to be unstinkified. It was mostly because it was feckin' warm. And with that, we shall talk about the small theatre. Not the big theatre, the small theatre, but that will need to be next time. Because that's been nearly 2 hours, bro. Good stuff. I thought this book was going to be dry as all heck, and it is a little dry. But we're having fun. I'm having fun. I love learning stuff. I know, I'm sorry, Kevlar. So much theatre. That theatre section was chonky. We have learned so much about the theatre. And that the Romans... That whole section. Boop, 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 boop. Big theatre section. We're only 25% of the way through this book. Theoretically, if this is part 5, then it's going to take 20 parts to get through this book. Whether we read it. It's full of interesting... It is! And I'm so happy. Because it's a big roll of the dice when I pick up a book. I never know if it's going to be good, if it's going to be bad, if it's going to be too dry, if it's going to be too... Not interesting. But this has been very interesting. It's been so specific, so wonderful details. And I'll admit that when we've got a mystery on our hands, and I love a bit of historical mystery, it's good. It's good. It's good. But that is all for now. We will read about the small theatre next week. So for now, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank you everyone in lurk. Thank you anyone who watches the VOD. I really appreciate you coming. And I hope you enjoyed my content, no matter which way you decided to enjoy it. If you have not already, I would also appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you have done that and you're on Twitch and you haven't already, give the channel a cheeky little follow. That'd be lovely. Next week, so far. I know, right? Next week is miles away. Mood. If you've done all of those things and you would, and you have some extra money and you'd like to support a VTuber, you can do that in many ways. Thank you so much for Red Eye for becoming a member today, and thank you to Kevlar for the super chat. If anyone else would like to support me with the money burning a hole in their pocket, then you could do so via YouTube membership. I get you most exclusive stream, Discord channel, merch discounts, and chat commands. There is the Patreon, where you get short stories, exclusive stream, merch discounts, and free books. There is the Kofi, where if you like my emotes, you can commission me to draw some. And last but not least, merch store, where you can get ebooks, posters, and copies of books that I've written, a notebook, a pillow, stickers, and a crochet potato. And there is also Briony Rose Crafts on Etsy, where you can get different crochet items, including the cat. The cat is included. If you like those cats, you can buy them on Etsy. They are available. But that is all for now. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I will see you guys tomorrow, where we're going to play some more Ace Attorney, because it's Pride and we got to play those Ace games. Bad jokes. Run away. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Briony Rose Smith, Library. Goodbye.